So let's look at this letter. It's obvious Francis Bergoglio despises with an infernal hatred tradition. In a previous video, I talked about, and you should watch it, the story that Bergoglio tells of when he's a young boy, how he was, in the traditional Latin Mass, you transfer the missal from the epistle side to the gospel side and back from the gospel side to the epistle side. It's one of the really cool functions of the altar boy. Francis says when he was a young man, he wasn't very strong, and he fell and he dropped the altar missal on the ground while transferring it. Very embarrassing for him. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not Dr. Jordan Peterson. But when I hear Francis reflect about his youth and reflect about that incident, I can just see a wounded little boy, embarrassed, making mistakes, dropping things in the liturgy. Is that why he has tridentine phobia? I don't know. All right, let's look at the letter here. This is released by Dr. Robert Moynihan. Got to give him credit. And I'm going to read it. Here it is. I'm reading it from his site, Inside the Vatican. Hi, Robert. As we both know, there are no real secrets in Rome. So without revealing the identity, I can tell you that an archbishop in the United States has seen this document about which rumors abound and confirmed to a priest friend of mine who is a person of true integrity and would not casually spread rumor that it does indeed contain what some have guessed at, a further suppression of the traditional Latin Mass, with an exception for religious orders who solely celebrate privately, no parish churches, and some possible further clarifications for the Fraternity of St. Peter. It was found necessary to issue the second letter because of the lack of implementation of Pope Francis's motu proprio by a good number of bishops around the world using Canon 87. It is scheduled for release sometime in April or May and would carry the weight of an apostolic exhortation to match that of St. Paul VI, formally establishing the new rite. It would effectively take away from the bishops any further say or exceptions in the matter. If issued, I believe it would push the traditional Latin Mass underground and further add to the ranks of the Pius X Society, which has grown by 3 times since the issuance of the motu proprio by Francis. This will not end well. The traditional Latin Mass will survive. Whether any Catholics will continue to go to a further watered-down Novus Ordo, which is also supposed to be part of this document, will remain to be seen. Attendance at weekly Sunday Mass by Catholics is currently at 12% in the United States, and it is 2.5% in the Netherlands. If I learn of any further information on all of this, I will be sure to send you an update. God bless, and thank you for all you do. Anonymous. Okay, so the thing that jumps out right away is this is an apostolic exhortation. What you need to know about papal documents is at the very top, you got apostolic constitution, which is dogma, doctrine, encyclicals, which is doctrinal, doctrine again. And then you have apostolic exhortation, which is encouraging the faithful to do something. For example, Paul VI issued apostolic exhortation, encouraging everyone, hey, let's get with the whole new Mass, Novus Ordo. John Paul II had an exhortation on the family. Below that or around that is a motu proprio. That's kind of like a papal executive order, usually just used to change canon law. So Benedict XVI used a motu proprio to give freedom for the Latin Mass. Francis used a motu proprio to take that away, and now Francis is doubling down again. He's going to issue something higher, an apostolic exhortation. That's the letter. It's going to be bad. Are you ready? Are you prayed up? Are you praying your rosary every day? Don't cry. Don't get scared. Let's go. Now, do you want to hear my predictions? This is where I'm either going to be right or you're all going to laugh at me. I'm going to be right. I think I'm going to be right. First off, what will this document do? It's going to repeat everything that Traditionis Custodes said, but it's going to put teeth on it. The really embarrassing thing for Francis is that he issued it, and while some bishops enforced it, half or most did not really enforce it. It was actually very common, not just in America, but all over the world, for bishops to write who are friends with their traditional priests and say, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. Everything's going to go on as it went before. And that's where in some places happened. Other places like Chicago under Cardinal Cupich, who's always trying to impress Bergoglio and try to be more modernist and more liberal and more heretical than all the other cardinals, he was slapping traditionalists around like no other. This is going to make it so that bishops can't look the other way. He's going to put pressure on the bishops to enforce. So, for example, in a local parish, if a new mom and dad want their baby baptized in the traditional Roman rite, not the Novus Ordo baptism, which has one exorcism, the real Roman baptism, which has 3 exorcisms, the one that we've been using for over 1,000 years, powerful. Both are valid, by the way. Both are valid. Before now, priests will, bishops will look the other way. They'll get it done. They're going to make that an offense. They're going to start censuring people over it. Okay, so that's one prediction that I have. A second prediction is that Francis is going to set something in motion to require all priests and all religious orders to participate in the Chrism Mass by means of concelebration. This is going to force traditional priests, like those in the Fraternity of St. Peter, to concelebrate in the Novus Ordo. Participate in the Novus Ordo. That's been coming for a while, and I think if Francis really wants to get down, he's going to push that. Something that's already in Traditionis Custodes that's going to also get more teeth on is no more of the other 6 sacraments in the traditional formularies. This could mean, maybe, we don't know, that Fraternity of St. Peter, their priests would have to be ordained in the Novus Ordo, not in the traditional rite. I don't know. It could mean that even if you go to a Fraternity of St. Peter parish, maybe if you're going to get confirmation, you don't get the old traditional confirmation. You can get the Novus Ordo confirmation with the bishop. Because remember, Francis believes that the Novus Ordo is the only expression of the Roman rite. That means he wants the traditional one to go bye-bye, even though Benedict said that shouldn't happen. And then the most draconian that could happen, and I've talked to a source that think this is legit, is that the Triduum of Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday using the traditional liturgy will be thoroughly and entirely abolished, except for maybe Fraternity of St. Peter or certain orders. But that you will not be able to do Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday using the traditional 1962 or before liturgies. This will require every single layman to go to the Novus Ordo on those 3 days. Cupich has done this before, by the way. They've floated this out before. Now, my friend Matt Gasper said, wouldn't it be interesting if Francis released this on April 3rd? April 3rd is the date that Paul VI issued his apostolic exhortation, making the Novus Ordo Mass the new Mass on April 3rd. Francis could use that day as a sign that he's just standing with his predecessor, Paul VI, and just hammering down the Novus Ordo. That day, April 3rd, is a Monday in Holy Week. That means if he issued that and the things that I'm suggesting it might say during Holy Week, that would be explosive indeed. Especially if it had norms for Chrism Mass, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. And because of that, I don't think Francis would drop it on April 3rd, unless he's just super draconian and just really wants to send a message.